Well, hello, my fearless friends out there. This is Privately Outspoken. Sheryl Drinkall. My life is a podcast. And I don't know how you're all doing today, but I sure hope you have your fearless hats on. We're about to dive into some real talk. Real talk about fear and courage and all that good stuff. You ready to rock and roll? Let's do this. Let's just challenge that very notion of fear itself. Let's redefine it. It's not a barrier, it is a catalyst for growth. This topic is not for the faint of heart. Are you ready to turn the dial on your life? Full volume. Embrace that fiery essence that I know is inside of you. I know it's inside of me. We need to know what it means to live without limits. Let's get real for a second. I have been there. I have been there where your knees are shaking and my heart's been racing and I'm facing whatever fear it is right in the eye. You know what? Every time we push through that, every time we take that leap of faith, we get to rewrite our own story. Fear is not just being a superhero 24 hours, 7 days a week. We're not fighting crime and we're not leaping tall buildings and that does sound pretty cool, but it's more about diving into the deep end, just embracing the unknown and walking through fear towards some epic adventures. Or for some of us, that means jumping through fear is an epic adventure. Maybe jumping through the fear for some of us has been to get more fulfilled in our life. Maybe we needed more excitement. Maybe someone has been holding us back, or that person doesn't let us be ourselves. This person doesn't see us for who we are. They don't know us. They don't care to know us. They don't even appreciate our spirit in any way of how we truly are. And we finally realize that we're not letting that happen anymore. Maybe it's a calmness that we've needed, a peace we've needed. Maybe it's a blockage that we need freed from. Maybe it's a safety issue. There are so many instances that we have to push through our fear to better our lives coming out on the other side. Me, I simply got tired of worrying. I got tired of being fearful. I got tired of walking on eggshells. I got tired of being continually anxious all the time. I got tired of feeling disrespected. I got tired of my beautiful, beautiful spirit being stomped on anytime I was in my highest vibration. I just changed my life and started leaping at everything, leaping at opportunity and change. I started saying yes to experience. I started feeling again. I started educating myself even more day after day after day, really honing in on all the knowledge and life experience I had before all that. And I really just started paying attention to the world around me, paying attention to human nature, just observing and taking it all in. I stopped being scared. I just started going for it. And it didn't matter if people didn't understand. It didn't matter if the outside world thought wrong. It only mattered what I knew inside, and what I knew was correct. Just really focused on my intuition and how things made me feel. Not just about how other things made other people feel, but also how other people were making me feel. I started to make some personal goals and find fulfillment in pushing forward toward those because I definitely was made to feel like none of that was ever going to be important. Nothing that I ever felt was going to be important. I just looked fear right in the face and said, "Oh yeah, try me, try me." We each we each have all these stories. We all have triumphs. We all have setbacks. We all have these moments of pure magic. We're not letting other people decide our story and decide what is the next chapter. We're going to decide that for ourselves. The types of fears that we all sort of go through. Let's start with the fear of failure. The fear of failure. Falling short of our expectations that somebody maybe has for us, that maybe we have for ourselves. For me, pushing through that fear is just embracing the fact that it might not happen and also thinking through it so that if it doesn't happen, thinking of the outcome that might happen instead and what the positive might be. So that always helps me with this fear of failing. There's never a real true failure because if you fail, it's a lesson. And in the lesson is an accomplishment. That's a success. That's how I view it. Then there's fear of rejection. There's fear of rejection at work. There's fear of rejection with our parenting. There's fear of rejection in all our relationships. And, I could probably go on and on about that. If you just have these personal goals and you put yourself out there, you're going to overcome those fears. You just have to be vulnerable. You have to take chances. And you just have to accept that some rejection is just a part of life. It is a part of life and it will help develop you into a person that has strength and resilience. What is meant for you will be. You should be more fearful of not going for it because you might not get it. That would be such a bigger regret in my eyes. You know what? Fear, it's paralyzing and it's always holding us back from what we truly desire. What if we use it toward our growth, toward that transformation? Honestly, it is in those moments of the discomfort that we truly discover our limitless possibilities, and they just lie within us. How about fear of change? Fear of change. That can be so intimidating, right? It's disruptive. It always leads to the unknown. And yeah, we just have to push through that fear. It's about believing in yourself and believing that you'll be able to handle whatever comes of it, right? We have to learn to adapt to the new situations. We, as human beings, we learn to adapt. We learn to adapt to that change and we figure stuff out. We often don't figure things out until we absolutely have to. Goodness, what's another example? Fear of public speaking. You have a fear of speaking up. Sure, push through if you need to. If you don't, that's okay, but doing so will increase your confidence. Anything you do and you get practice of will increase your confidence. Everything's scary the first time. You can push through that and become a leader. You can have one of your ideas taken seriously in something important that you feel that you wanted to speak up about. It develops our communication skills. It completely helps our self confidence. Even if you bombed speaking in public, it's just practice. It's just you get better. You always get better with any type of practice. So you can't possibly think that you're just going to be so fantastic at every single thing that you do. I mean, I'm pretty darn good at, a lot of things. I'm not really that bad at anything, but I'm sure I can find a few things. But I'm pretty darn good, and I think that's from just the lack of fear of trying. One thing that would help is just thinking of an example where you did have all this fear and you did take that leap and how it did work out for you. Remind yourself that even though you're not where you want to be quite yet, don't forget to look back just for a second and see how far you've come. It's like when your children grow. You don't notice them every single day growing and growing and growing and growing. But accumulatively, you do. Although, just a little side note, I swear to goodness, sometimes I do look at my children, certain ones, and I literally say out loud to them, I think you grew last night. You see it in their little faces. They just fill out a little bit, or they're standing a little taller, or they're just actual maturity overnight. That's just crazy and really fun to watch as a mom. It's really a fun thing to recognize and just experience. Some of those moments are priceless, right? Speaking of children, I always think to myself, well, what am I going to tell my children? What advice would I give them? When I sit with fear, that's it. I just sit with it for a second. I'm pretty fearless. I'm more fearless than I've ever been in my entire life. It does feel good. And I would like my children to feel that too, because being fearful of everything, it stifles you. It stifles you. It stifles your growth. It stifles your spirit. It stifles those around you when you're always negative. It is a big deal. So let's just end the fear, look to the future, see that path that we want to be on. Don't be scared. I mean, could you imagine if your child, your teenager, came to you and you found yourself giving in to their fear, encouraging the fear instead of encouraging the confidence to go for it? I cannot imagine that. What would be a big one? How about a fear of judgment? Oh, that's a big one, right? We're always having this fear of being judged or criticized by someone else. It limits us. It limits us from being our authentic selves. It limits us from sharing our opinions, being who we are, or showing different sides of us. I have so many sides, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to show them all. I don't really have that huge fear of judgment because I know from experience that most of the judgment is based on their perception, and that pushes through my fear every time. That's their perception. I won't even get mad at them. It teaches me more about them than it does about me. We would just have a lot more lightheartedness if we weren't afraid of people's thought, if we weren't afraid to be imperfect, if we weren't afraid to make mistakes or to trip and fall, or, we have to embrace the fact that not everyone's going to approve of everything that you choose to do. As long as you stay true to yourself, that's okay. The judgment is such a tricky thing. I'll be recording another episode on that because a lot of fear of judgment is to do with perception, and it's often a false perception. So, what do you have to fear? I'm going to help you sort of think that one through too, and how to get past that. I have a lot of tips for that. Sometimes even the fear of success can be scary. There's this saying that goes around my house a lot is careful what you wish for, because I dream big and I try to teach my kids to dream big. I do want to encourage them to go after things that they want, because you never really regret the things you went for. You only regret the things you didn't go for. But yeah, if you're having a fear of succeeding because your life will change, because you don't know what that's going to involve, you fear you're not worth it, or you're not really stepping into that full potential of yourself. If we can learn to embrace that and push through that fear, there's nothing you can't empower through. There's nothing that you can't, that your success won't teach you to be better and better, and it's an involvement. You're not just like perfect at everything. You start somewhere and then you get somewhere. You start somewhere and you get somewhere. I know in my life, sometimes when I was down, I had to remember, and I had someone reminding me that this is amazing how far you've come. You just take a tiny little look over your shoulder. You don't turn around, but you look over your shoulder and you remember how far you've come and what you have succeeded in, and just be so proud of yourself. There's fear of the unknown. That is such a huge, huge fear for so many people, especially nowadays. We don't know what's next. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what this change will snowball into. So we just have to have courage. We have to have that courage. We have to build that resilience. Just be willing to explore and get out of our comfort zones. That's what we need to do with the fear of the unknown. I've had so much fear of the unknown. I just listen to my gut, and I listen to my intuition, and I listen to my heart, and I listen to my head, I just combine everything and I just learn to jump. And what that's done for me is it's led to heaviness off my shoulders, a more fulfilling life in such a different way. It's led to confidence and valuing myself, feeling so worthy. Something that I just don't allow in my life anymore is no one is putting a fear in me that something I want can't be. I believe in myself and I believe in my spirit and I believe in my energy and I believe in my mindset and I believe in my work ethic. I believe in my dreams. I have a lot of confidence. There's no reason that I can't build a wonderful life because it is my choice. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it is my choice and I won't choose to settle. I won't choose to be in fear of not getting something that I deserve. It's just not an option. It's not an option. By doing this, I'm living out one of my fears that I push through. And it's exciting and it's wonderful and it's full of honestly every single fear that I mentioned before. It's full of them and I'm pushing through. And I am so very happy that I am and that I have. Let's just stay bold, stay brave. Let's just keep embracing those possibilities. Our journey awaits, and it truly, truly is up to us to get behind the wheel, get in the driver's seat. When you're taught how to drive defensively, we're always taught that your eyes determine the path of which your vehicle will follow despite any type of road condition. So you steer where you look. You don't look where you steer. Does that make sense? With our mindset, we always want to look in the direction of where we want to go. If you start looking sideways, you're going to go sideways. If you look along that center line and you keep your vision there, that's what we need to do in life. We need to always keep our eyes in the direction and our focus and our mindset in the direction that we want to be, regardless of where we are, because we will get there. I often find myself reminding people and reminding myself of sort of deciding our own story in our head of what our life is going to be in the future. You probably know a little bit more of what you want than you think you know. It comes down to taking the steps to make it happen and to be where you want to be in that time frame. Dream big. Dream big. Right? Whatever you don't think is possible, change your mindset. It is possible. Why wouldn't it be? No one can tell you that it's not. What is the worst that could happen? And let's also not forget what that feels like to push through the fear and then actually get what you wanted in the end. Remember that feeling of what it feels like. I could think of so many different examples of when I had fear and I pushed through. I've had 6 babies. I was pushed through, scared of being on my own, still pushed through. There's nothing that I have pushed through that I have regretted. You never, ever, ever regret pushing through the fear. You just don't. And fear doesn't have to be this individual journey that we just go through alone. We need support. We need encouragement. We need this shared energy of courage to fight through it, to move forward. We all have this power to uplift another person, empower that other person in all these twists and turns of their life. And they're going to do the same for you. Remember that fear is not one thing. It's not a destination. It's really a whole way of life. We do have everything we need to crush the fears and chase our dreams. Hit me with your questions. Hit me with your stories of facing fears and pushing through them and your triumph and maybe even a few failures that you thought were failures, but they turned into something really, really, really good and really, really positive for your life. That is a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your time. Subscribe to the podcast so that you can get every episode as they come out each week. And go check out my website, www.privatelyoutspoken.com. And have a wonderful week. I am going to catch you on the flip side.